Okay, thank you everybody for being here today. Sheriff Nate Sickler. I'm going to just start off by going through some updates from our current fire locations, both the Alameda and the Obichain. And when I get done with that, I'll turn it over to John Vile, and then as always, we will be available to take questions after the updates. So starting with the origin of the fire in North Ashland, the Alameda fire, that investigation is ongoing currently. It is still very active. We have no new information to report on the origin of the fire. I did want to assure everybody that this investigation is a priority for the Ashland Police Department. I have spoken with Chief Ty O'Mara and myself. It is a priority for our organization and all the detectives working on it. So it's a very active investigation. We're working hard to figure out how that started. Currently, we're still at 3 deceased individuals as a result of the Alameda fire. One individual, we are still waiting for confirmation on the identity, and that is the first victim that we announced in the fire that was in the, just north of Ashland on the Greenway. 2 additional victims, we are prepared to release their information today. Donald Schmidt, born in '65, he was originally reported by, I think, Channel 12. That is confirmed. He was a victim of the Alameda fire. We also have Violet Lobdell, born in '28. She was also a victim of the Alameda fire. Both resided at 300 Lumen Road. Currently, as of the time of this briefing, we have no critical missing reported individuals, meaning we have no individuals at this time that we believe were in the area of the fire and are missing. So those efforts are still ongoing, but we're happy to report that. On Saturday, we released a good portion, nearly everything in the Alameda zone. We reduced to a level 1 and opened up the roadways. We felt like we were to a point that was safe to do. But we also want to be mindful that all of those areas that were damaged by fire do contain hazardous materials. And we'll talk more about that today, but I just want everyone to be aware, just because we've opened this up, people still need to be conscientious, and they need to consult with professionals before they go sifting or looking through some of that rubble. It is toxic. Patrol efforts in the Alameda fire area, we are still providing some extra patrol resources to ensure things go smoothly down there and to prevent any criminal activity. We've had some minor reports. I've made a couple of arrests since our last update, but it has slowed way down compared to what it was right after the fire. National Guard is no longer deployed actively on our fire scenes, and I just would like to thank them for their dedication to service and to our region, and for the cooperation we had with them and our law enforcement partners. They were very, very valuable to keeping our areas safe. So the Obichain fire. The origin of that fire is still under investigation by the Oregon Department of Forestry, ODF. They do not believe at this time that fire is malicious in nature, but they are not fully completed with their investigation, and they will update the public as that information becomes available. And any further questions could be directed to the ODF. Number of critical missing is still 0 from the Obichain fire, and we have no reported or deceased persons from the Obichain fire. Evacuation levels, we still have about, a few homes are still in the level 3 area in the Obichain fire, and as you can see from the map here, the fire scar due to active fire and hazards is still at a level 3, but we are shrinking that daily, or evaluating those evacuation levels daily. We still have a couple hundred homes in the level 2, so we just want to make sure people are cognizant and aware and paying attention to any availability for information through the Jackson County Emergency Management page, social media, and Everbridge. But firefighters are making good progress on that fire. I was told today that there's still 800 or so personnel working that fire. So they're getting things. They're very happy with the progress, and we hope to have more information tomorrow. Again, National Guard, we did have them helping with some traffic checkpoints on the Obichain fire, and they have been, they're no longer working in that capacity up there. So again, thank you. Before I turn it over to John Vile, I just would again like to thank our community. This has been a very trying 2 weeks for everybody, and our community has responded very generously. And the outpouring of support for law enforcement, for those that lost their homes, and all of our community has been very humbling. So I'm very thankful to be able to work and live in this county and to serve this public. So thank you. John?
Thank you, Sheriff Sickler, and thank you, Sheriff, for your strong leadership throughout this challenging event. I wanted to update the community just on 4 events that are happening through the Emergency Operations Center that are a result of this fire. The first item, the county is very excited to announce that tomorrow we're going to be opening what's called a MultiAgency Resource Center. The acronym for that is a MARC. It's going to be located here at the old Central High School in Medford, in this room here, and in the surrounding classrooms. What the MARC contains is representatives from FEMA, the insurance agencies, Red Cross, the city, and other agencies that can assist those that are impacted by this fire get back on their feet and provide a path for them to restore and get back to somewhat of a normal lifestyle. This MARC is going to be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, until further notice. You did hear me note that FEMA representatives are going to be here. We're excited to announce that FEMA has responded in spades and has sent down a strong team. We have 12 DSA agents. DSA is the Disaster Survivor Assistance Staff. We received 12. That's more than we requested. And they are here and they are ready to assist citizens and walk them through the FEMA process. In addition, we are expecting to get 7 to 8 what's called individual assistant representatives showing up next week. The individual assistance individuals are those that help the more complex cases. If somebody can't prove of ownership of their property, all their records are destroyed, and they're just a little harder to figure out. These individual assessment folks sit down with them and walk them through this process when it's a fairly complex one. In addition to the MARC that's located here at the Old Central High, FEMA representatives will also be located at the Phoenix Civic Center at 220 North Main Street, Talent Elementary School at 307 West Wagner Street in Talent, and at the River House Community Center in Shady Cove. The hours for those facilities will be depending on need. But in each one of our facilities, here at the MARC and at the 3 remote facilities, we will have Spanish-speaking FEMA representatives available to assist those speaking Spanish through this process. If possible, we'd ask citizens to bring a home address identification, a social security number, and insurance information if you have it. If you don't have it, don't worry, show up. FEMA is used to working in situations where people have lost everything. But if you do have it, it does make the process a little easier. And lastly, as we have noted each time, is we encourage those who have suffered a loss to get the process started by registering with FEMA at www.disasterassistance.gov. The next topic I want to touch on is the damage assessment. When this event happened, it damaged a very large area throughout Phoenix and Talent and the unincorporated areas in between. And the county took a lead and put together a multi-agency team comprised of officials from Jackson County, Josephine County, the city of Medford, city of Talent, and Ashland, and groups from the Northwest Code professionals. Their job was to go through and conduct a preliminary damage assessment, a huge task that they completed in just over a week. Through this process, they reviewed each structure, placarded it as unsafe or restricted use. Structures that are structurally sound were tagged with a green tag, noting that there was no damage and that they were ready for occupancy. These placards do only indicate the structural soundness of the building, though, and it does not indicate if running water, sewer, or electricity has been restored, which those services are coming back quickly. I will just highlight on some numbers that we have, and I want to emphasize these numbers are subject to change. The data is being reviewed now, and it is being perfected. But currently, that damage assessment team reviewed 3,398 structures in total, of which 2,790 of those were damaged or destroyed, and 2,606 residential properties were damaged or destroyed. This also includes 181 commercial properties that were also damaged or destroyed through this event. One thing that we're excited about is behind me is an interactive mapping tool that our IT folks have put together that's going to be available on the internet, where people can go into the website, they can click on their property and zoom in, and you can see the map here. They can zoom into a site. They will see a photo of the condition of their property. On this particular photo here, clearly the site has been destroyed. They can see if it's been classified as minor damage, major damage, destroyed, or unaffected. This tool will be available hopefully by later in the week, and we will send out a press release regarding how to access that site. But we think this is going to be a very useful tool to help property owners understand what happened on their site, as well as helping them with the FEMA process. And we, as noted, we will inform you later this week on how to access that site. Next, I'm going to talk quickly about debris cleanup. Sheriff Sickler touched on this issue. Debris cleanup is a tough issue. This is a huge issue with lots of players, and the main reason that this is so complicated is because of the actual presence or the possible presence of hazardous materials. Many of the structures that were burned on this are older structures that were built using materials that we no longer use that contain asbestos and other hazardous materials. Those materials are still present on the site. So if citizens want to access their site, we are not preventing that, but we would ask you to use caution when you enter it. Wear gloves, wear a mask, and wear closed-toed shoes. And we'd also recommend this is not an area for children. These sites contain hazards, and we've seen a few cases where children are out there, and we would recommend that you don't do that. There's simply too high of a risk to have children out there. If citizens decide to take steps to clean their own land, I would highly recommend that they contact FEMA representatives first to ensure that the work that they're doing is reimbursable if they are seeking reimbursement. However, if citizens are not seeking reimbursement, they have insurance, they are allowed to go ahead and proceed with that work. But they need to do some things first. They need to make sure that they're following all the laws and hire contractors that are certified to deal with these hazardous materials. And they need to document the site clearly with photographs, and take lots of photographs to document the work that you're doing. So citizens, if they want to, they can work with their insurance companies and get that process started. But again, make sure that you're following the applicable laws and you're hiring contractors that are certified to do this kind of work. Lastly, I'll just touch on the evacuation shelter. The evacuation shelter was set up on the day of the event, and that first night we housed nearly 2,000 citizens. The evacuation center continues to provide shelter, food, and showers for those staying there. Last night we had 110 people, evacuees staying inside the shelter, and another 90 evacuees sleeping in vehicles outside of the shelter. The donation drop-off point has been closed at the expo site, and Red Cross is continuing to operate it. As time goes on, that facility is going to continue to see fewer and fewer people at it as people are placed in transitional housing and receive some assistance in that fashion. Lastly, I just want to note what Sheriff Sickler said. This event has impacted our community heavily, and many people are struggling and many people are hurting by the results of those fires. I have been amazed and impressed at the response of this community. I have been amazed at how people have come together, people have been gracious, and people have looked for opportunities to help at a time when people needed that help. If you visited the Expo Center during that evacuation, you would see there's a lot of people there hurting, and our community has responded in a fantastic way. And as Sheriff Sickler said, I'm proud to be a member of this community that responded like this. And with that, we would open it up to questions for myself or for Sheriff Sickler.
The aspect of the properties, the damage done versus the homes themselves, have we been able to distinguish how many homes are involved? Because when we say, I know the numbers have been total buildings and it might be a fourplex or something like that. Is there any way of figuring that out?
So as I noted, the number of residential properties currently stands around 2,600. Some of those might be some outbuildings, but that number is going to go up and down maybe 5 to 10%, but it's going to be in that 25 to 2,600 range as far as the number of residential properties. It will change some as that data is perfected. Yes, sir.
What type of transitional housing is becoming available for people? I'm wondering what, we have about probably 6,000 residents that are looking for something immediately.
So, and there's a whole variety of forms that takes, everything from putting people up in hotels to renting some RVs to everybody always hears about the FEMA trailers, the famous FEMA trailers. There's a whole wide variety of that. That is coming together. That is not going to happen tomorrow, but that is in progress and being worked on. And as soon as those things are becoming available, we will continue to make those announcements and get that out to the public.
Do you have an estimated time?
An estimated time on when that's going to happen? No, I don't. I cannot provide that. In the meantime, that shelter at the expo is going to continue to be functional until we can ensure that those people are placed properly.
There had been some discussion about a debrief, and one of the things going over that debrief was going to be the emergency alert system. Are we closer to scheduling that debrief, or do you have a time already scheduled for that?
We don't have a time scheduled for that, and I'll maybe ask Sheriff Sickler to touch on. He has done some reach out to some other people. We are going to ask an independent third party to come and take a look at that. And if Sheriff Sickler, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so with regards to that, there will be, the county is going to reach out to a couple different individuals who do this kind of work, or companies, and they have to draft a scope of work, and then there has to be contracts in place. But those things are moving forward, so it's not something that's going to be delayed for a significant amount of time, but it will take a little bit of time to get the person in to do that, and then get all the paperwork drafted and accepted on both parties to do that work. Any other questions for me while I'm up here? Okay.
I do want to add one comment to the question regards when are people going to be placed. I want to note that Red Cross is here and people are being placed as we speak. So that is occurring as we speak and will continue. The question is when everybody's going to be placed. That's the harder question, but that is a process that has started and is continuing. Any other questions for me?
What are the two websites behind you? Like, can we visit those today? Sorry, the screenshots of both of those.
So no, I'm sorry. Yeah, so this is the dashboard for the damage assessment, and so that tool will be available later this week, and we will provide a press release on that. The bottom line is it's not active yet, and if I give it to you, everybody's going to go do it, and then they're going to be frustrated because there's nothing there. So when we get that online, ready to go, that will be released later this week. I would note, in addition, the county is going to set up a comprehensive website for all disaster relief. It's going to have links to FEMA and all the other organizations and kind of be a clearinghouse, and that will be set up probably week after next, and will be a comprehensive site for people to visit to find information on all aspects of disaster recovery.
So both of those will be on the same website
Yeah,
behind you?
yeah. This is the same tool.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just kind of a summary, and this is the interactive tool where you can zoom into a property and see an individual piece of property, and then see a photo and what the impact of the disaster was upon that site.
A number of people asked about debris cleanup and the costs, the extensive costs of that. Can you speak a little to that?
As we've moved through this and as we have continued to learn more about this, for most all of us, this is our first time at encountering something like this. And I'll just be honest, the cost of this debris cleanup is staggering. It has kind of shocked most of us to how expensive this is. And the reason it's so expensive is because of the possible or actual presence of hazardous materials. And so a rough number that we have been used for estimating purposes is to use the cost of $70,000 per site to clean it up. Hopefully it will be less than that, but they said use that as a potential cost. Understand that if some of those costs will be covered by insurance companies, those costs can be covered by FEMA and other methods, hopefully. But it is a significant cost, and that's why one of the reasons, in addition to the hazards, we're kind of urging people, don't run out and try to do this too quick. Let's continue to get some tools and get some things out there to where we can get this cleaned up in a fashion that is both affordable and it is a methodology that's going to work for the community. One of the concerns that we have is these 3 houses don't get cleaned up, those 4 don't, this one does, that one doesn't, and you end up with kind of a blight situation where this is all mixed together. We want to do this as much as possible in a programmatic fashion where everything gets cleaned up.
Also worth mentioning that as of yesterday, Phoenix Elementary School was set up as a temporary shelter with showers.
Yes, that's correct. Everybody heard that. Phoenix Elementary School is set up as a temporary shelter with showers. And there's many faith-based groups around town. There's lots and lots of places that are providing assistance to the people that are struggling right now. Anything else? All right, thank you all.